Now in this video, I want to introduce to a couple of improvements that we did to the test generation pipeline and also the introduction of the test executor so that when you generate the test, you can simply run those tests on the target system without even moving out of the platform itself. Now, obviously, this is the simple the pipeline that you can develop for testing a particular system. Now in here, you have to start with the system source, and obviously that would trigger extracting the components and the endpoints of the entire system itself. Now in here, we have defaulted to two main roles, admin and user. Now obviously you can update this based on what are all the roles that exists in the system, or if you want to target a particular set of roles, that could also be specified here. Now here, one of the things that we have done in terms of an improvement for intuitivity is to enable users to drag and drop these roles within the card so that they can order in the same order they would want to see these particular roles in terms of a priority. Now obviously the one at the top would have more priority in terms of analysis and generating tests, and therefore if you want to, for example, have the administrative user to have higher priority, you can just pull it up in terms of order. Now in the previous versions we did have specifying a priority number, which is now done under the hood, so that the users doesn't have to really specify such internal numbers. Now given this pipeline, we can simply execute the pipeline as it is. Now the component extraction and endpoint might take a few seconds based on the size of the microservice system that you're interested in. Okay, now we have extracted the endpoints and the components, which are the basis for the test generation, because we under the hood does something called the authorization vector extraction as well. Now obviously this kind of a pipeline will stop at the scenario generator, because we want to wait until all the components and the endpoints are generated in order to assess the scenarios. Now this is basically a temporary pause, not exactly an error. So when you hit this point, you can simply execute the scenario generation, which will basically recognize what are all the different scenarios that are related to all the different distributed parts that are existing in the system, and then identify what are the prompts that needs to be generated in order to generate the tests that we are interested in. Now another improvement that we've done to this pipeline is to enable the scenario generator cards to expand and also perform filtering. Now in here, now you would see that compared to the previous version, we have added a couple more information into the card. Now this will tell you what are the scenarios that contain inconsistency in terms of policy, that are consistent in terms of policy, and what are the allowed roles, what are the expected statuses, and if there is any financial or any PIIs involved in this particular part, what are the services involved, and what basically the category that this particular scenario belongs to. Now these are all important because in order for a user to recognize or basically filter out any scenario based on some sort of a criteria. Now let's say my criteria is to find out what are all the parts or the scenarios that are related to pay. Now let's say I want to search it for pay. Now you can see that there are 15 different scenarios that are related to payments or pay. which we have extracted from the entire scenario list. Now, you could do this based on all the different fields that are available here. And another way of filtering is if you want to just basically focus on the inconsistencies, you can just tick on the inconsistencies only, which will give you all the different scenarios that are targeted towards detecting and validating policy inconsistencies in the scenario. Now, once you filter this, you would see that what are all the different inconsistencies that exists in all the different parts that have been analyzed. And you would know if you want to cross-reference or want to see what exactly been validated through the generated tests, you would basically find out, okay, now these are all the different scenarios and inconsistencies that are validated. Now, you could deselect or select all the visible. Now, in my case, I've selected 19 different inconsistencies or scenarios that I want to test out. Now, once I have done that, it's basically pretty easy to just generate the test only focused at these particular scenarios. Now, in my case, out of these 19 different inconsistency containing parts, I would let's say select 2 of them. Now, these are all the scenarios that I want to focus on in terms of generating tests. Now, once I have selected that, it's basically up to the LLM prompt to generate me. Let's say in my case, I've actually done a little mistake there because I've only basically selected based on the previously visible set, which was limited. And so that basically selected me 242, but now I've only selected the 2 containing the inconsistencies. Now, if I now generate the LLM prompts, now I see 2 prompts ready for test suite generation, and now that would automatically trigger executing the test suite generation. Now, this might take a couple of seconds based on the sort of the model that we have used. Now, in my case, I have currently selected Java. Now, obviously, you can select among Python, curl as well, apart from Java. So, which would give you now, if it is a Java being selected, now you would get a zip file containing Java classes. If it is Python, again a zip file containing Python classes, and also if it is curl, obviously you would get shell scripts containing curl commands to test out the different scenarios. Now, obviously, once the tests are generated, you would have all the test classes available as a zip file for downloading. That is, if you want to integrate these tests into the code itself that we have generated the test for, that could also be done. But apart from that, now you'd have this test executor where you would be able to point to the URL where you have the target system already running. You could basically update this target URL, and once you click on the launch test executor, you would have this UI, which will basically which will give you a list of all the different test classes and test cases for execution from the platform itself. Now, obviously, you'd seen in the pipeline before, there are 2 different roles. So you'd obviously want to set the tokens for the admin, for the user, and if you want to update the invalid token as well, you can do that. And you could also update the code if you are interested in to do that. Now, here you might see that in terms of tokens, these are set as placeholders. Now, when it comes to run text, if you want to simply run this particular test class, you can simply just click on this, and whatever the tokens that you have set here would obviously be replaced onto these particular placeholders before these tests are executed. Now, obviously, for each test, you would see a comment indicating what is the purpose of this particular test and what it tries to achieve and what are the assertions as well. Now, you would also see that when it comes to post-put endpoints, this content or the post body are basically valid ones that are generated based on the context that we have provided in the prompt generation as well. Now, again, this is another test class which basically does the same purpose. Now, once you have actually executed each test class on its own using this button, or you can basically simply run all the tests as a bulk as a bulk process as well through this UI. Now, once they are going to be running, you would have all the logs here, and you would have the test assertions recorded here as well. And once all these are complete, you can export the report once that is available. Now, the test executor is available for all the different languages that we offer, even if it is in curl. I'll show that this is will be available for for any modifications or just simply executing the tests in the text executed itself. Now, for example, now here we've generated the same test in curl. Now, these are exactly two different scenarios that have been tested, and we have all the comments, the post and the put body for requests contained in here as well. Now, exactly the same thing in terms of tokens. They would get replaced. They have the same placeholders as well. You can run it in terms of simply as one shell script at a time, or you can just run them all in a bulk. Okay, now these are all the updates that we have on the test generation and execution part.